I'm gonna tell you how getting stabbed with a pencil in middle school led me to running a $10,000 to $15,000 a month business as a one-person agency. And after watching this video, hopefully you're gonna have more clarity about how everything happens for a reason, but also you're gonna stop comparing your life to others who are seemingly ahead of you. Now, something worth noting is that ever since I was a kid, I've always been a creative. I've always had a passion for creating, whether that would be drawing, painting, crafting. And in this story, you're gonna see how this exact same passion simply kept evolving. And this is just a story of how a creative kid kept on chasing the next passion and the next passion after that until, well, he ran a business that is able to afford his lifestyle. So now let me take you back to when I was in middle school. This is one of the earliest events that I can actually tie this whole story to. The year was 2012, the year that the world was supposed to end. I was in 7th grade in a brand new school. And when the year started, I was alone. I literally had no friends. So in the mornings before school started, I would hang out in the library. And after some days and maybe some weeks, I made some friends here and there. And of course, some other people that were not so friendly towards me, like Haley, who would say that she didn't like me because I would ask how her day was every single day, and that just didn't sit right with her. So most of the kids that I bonded with quickly, well, we bonded because we would all speak Spanish. We all had Latino roots, or we came from Hispanic countries. And after some time, they all became very close friends of mine. These were the people that I would hang out with during class. I would eat lunch with them and I would play with them in PE. Little did I know though, that each and every single one of them was shaping my perspective, but more importantly, they were shaping my life in the near future. And back then, life felt so much lighter. There was more exploring to do. Riding bikes with my friends all throughout town, being outside for most of the day, running or playing with Nerf guns. It was simply great, and it was just kids being kids. However, kids do unexpected things, right? And sometimes they get hurt. And so I distinctly remember this like it was yesterday. Biology class, 7th grade. We had a special day because we were gonna go see a presentation to a different room that we called the lab. And the presentation was nothing but a YouTube video about cells and organelles. But I remember sitting to this buddy of mine who I barely knew at the time, but the connection was there, so I knew that he was gonna be a longtime friend of mine, which he is. So we're sitting there talking shit, messing around in the lab before the presentation even started. And I remember very distinctly how I had a weird itch on the palm of my hand. Perhaps it was an allergy, or maybe it was a mosquito bite of some sort. Well, I told this buddy of mine who I was sitting next to, and he was like, oh shit, let me see. So I pull out my hand so he can see where it itched. And then just like that, he gets a pencil out of his pocket and stabs the palm of my hand. He didn't know why he did it, and I didn't know why he did it either. So we just looked at each other and we started laughing. I was like, what the fuck? Like, you just stabbed me with a pencil. And he was like, oh shit, my bad. Yeah, I would say so. So of course I go to the nurse because my hand's bleeding all of a sudden, and they only put like a little band-aid on my hand because that's all nurses could do for you at the time. But that moment right there would mark the beginning of a very close bond that would become very important to this whole story. It was a friendship that would keep on going throughout middle school, but also high school. And now this friend group with Pencil Stabber grew to about 5 or 6 people, and we would all hang out very often, and even formed a paintball team that would practice every Sunday. And I remember Pencil Stabber started dating this girl, and we're gonna call her Val. And this becomes very important later on. Pencil Stabber and Val were literally inseparable. And well, naturally, we all hang out and we all knew each other pretty well. But around this same time is when my creativity started evolving. You see, around this same time in high school, that's when my passion for being a creative that manifested itself as a passion for drawing when I was little started evolving into 2 different things. Number 1, a passion for digital art, and number 2, a passion for photography. And little did I know how important it would be for me to just follow the passion that my heart wanted to pursue. And so what did I do? I signed up for an elective class where they teach you Photoshop, this weird software that we've all heard of. It is so famous that it's almost a verb or even an adjective now. You can say, oh, you Photoshopped that, or that's Photoshopped, and those sentences make sense. So this was the very first time that I messed around with this infamous software. And the class was great. I learned how to fix photos, how to create digital art, and lots of other things that I had no idea were even possible. It was exciting for me. I mean, anybody with this simple and yet super complex software was capable of creating whatever whatever their mind could think of. The only ceiling to what you could create was literally your own mind and your own creativity. Naturally, I wanted to learn every single tool within this software, every detail, every shortcut, and every application that you could find. I was once again a kid being a kid. There was so much exploration to do, finding out new things that you can do with this software, and it was almost like a new horizon for creation. The possibilities were virtually endless. But more importantly, this class served as a foundation to my skills that I still to this day use, but also it served as a bridge to the next passion. And what do I mean by that? You see, in this class, we also learned the basics of photography and composition, how to take a photo that is pleasing to the eye, and then go back to Photoshop and edit it in such a way that makes a good image great. And so that right there, that little bit of knowledge was my one-way ticket to then research this topic, photography, profoundly. Suddenly, I was finding myself watching tutorials on how to make better photos and how to edit them better and what colors look good on camera. And it was a whole new world of knowledge. And so naturally, I started taking photos with what was available to me, my iPhone 6. And at some point, this phone was so broken because I would drop it so much that every time that I would open the app, the camera lens inside physically would start shaking. It literally sounded like an old film was getting played in an old cinema. And so if I wanted to take one good photo with this phone, I would have to take like 10, and hopefully I would capture one that was not blurry due to the lens shaking physically. But I was happy, and I would take photos of everything that I could, and I was applying everything that I was learning on YouTube in the real world. And so it was around this same time that I found out that one of my friends in that paintball group had a Canon camera. And it was a small entry-level point and shoot, meaning that you cannot change the lens, but you can zoom pretty far in and out. And so eventually I asked to borrow it for a couple of weeks, and then he agreed. Man, that right there, that was absolute gold to me. I mean, I had my hands on an actual camera, not just a phone. No, sir. I could now take real photos with a real camera. And so, as you can imagine, I was taking photos of everything that I could find, from small things like flowers and keychains to like wide landscapes like my neighborhood's park or other sceneries around town. I was having fun and exploring the new horizons that having a camera unlocked. And you best believe that I dived deeper into YouTube, into tutorials, so I could better my skills. And then, unfortunately, this came to an end because I mean, this camera was not mine. It was borrowed. It was my friend's, and he asked for it back. But then this instance then led me to consider buying my first camera. Naturally, I was doing research on something that could take good photos, something that was good, something that was professional. But there was just one problem. I was broke. So it would be really hard for me to buy something expensive. And so I did lots of research, and I eventually found this small camera that was an entry-level camera. It was a perfect mix between professional and entry-level, and you could change the lens on this one. And it was relatively affordable for a camera. It was around $500, but again, I had no income. I couldn't afford it at all. It was a world of money. I mean, if I got my hands on $20 that week, that was a great week for me. And so eventually, I found the perfect loophole. Turns out that my older brother had a credit card with Best Buy. That meant that if he allowed me to use it, I could buy this camera and make payments on it, which then meant that I didn't have to figure out a way to get $500. I just needed to figure out a way to get my hands on $50 a month minimum. And so after a while of convincing my brother whether he would let me use his credit card or not, because he wasn't so confident that I could make the payments, I was able to pull the trigger on this purchase. I got a brand new Canon M50 and an SD card, and actually, this is it right here. To this day, I still have this girl, and I would never sell it for the world. And the euphoria that I felt that day can't compare to anything else. I mean, this was my very first own camera. It was mine. Now, I didn't have to borrow it from anyone. I finally had a tool to express and better my creativity. I had a tool to show the world what I'm capable of doing. And to make things better, this camera could do video. And it had a flip out screen, which means that I could vlog like the people that I was aspiring to be like on YouTube. The same people that were teaching me all of these tutorials on how to make better photos. I was literally on top of the world. And so by this time, I'm already in my very early college days, right? And honestly, this can be kind of scary. I mean, it's college after all. Here's where you start getting a taste of the real world. And I remember feeling especially nervous because I was like, shit, I'm already in college, right? Like, fuck. I remember thinking it's almost time to make something out of my life. But I only knew just me and my camera. And I was so attached to it that I would actually take it to school because I was so excited of all of these things that I could photograph or all of these things that I could vlog. I would literally vlog while walking on campus. I was that invested into this. And so I want to say that it was around my second year of college. I'm walking around the Student Union, which is a building that has some restaurants for students to buy food, like Chick-fil-A, El Pato, Pizza Hut, Starbucks, and even a convenience store. And so I'm there having lunch alone in one of the tables by myself, and suddenly, who walks in? Remember Pencil Staver's girlfriend from high school, Val? She walks in, and by this point, they're no longer dating. They're no longer together, but I'm still on good terms with her, right? And she has a friend with her. So we all sit down together and we start eating and mingling and whatnot. And we find out that we all have that same time block free in between classes. And so we meet up pretty frequently to eat and hang out. And it was fun. And so little by little, I started getting closer to Val's friends. Let's call her Amy. And so as the weeks went by and the months went by, Amy and I start dating. Who could have seen it? Not me. So as her and I start dating, I start meeting her closest friends. Until one day, she wants to take me to her best friend's house to meet her and her boyfriend. And I'm like, cool, who is it? Well, I'll tell you who it was. Remember in middle school when there was a girl named Haley who didn't like me because I would ask her how her day was every day? It was that exact girl. Years later, now having a baby, having a husband, and owning a whole house. And naturally, I didn't want to go. I was like, hey, I don't think this girl likes me very much. And after all, she was not very kind to me in middle school. Well, apparently that was all in the past. And well, as nervous as I was, I went over to her house with my girlfriend at the time, Amy. And I got accepted with open arms. And we even laughed about the middle school days. And it was actually a very awesome day. But now this day is a literal cornerstone to this story. This very day is the reason why I am here today where I'm at, making this video for you even. Because of this girl that didn't like me, Haley, her boyfriend, Danny. This is when I met my man, Danny. And I'm gonna be forever grateful to this guy because Danny boy taught me some extremely valuable lessons in business. And so since I was so attached to my camera, I brought it over as well to their house. And little did I know that Danny was more experienced with cameras than I was. We had a shared passion for this craft. And not only did he also have photography equipment, actually like 2 or 3 cameras, but he had video equipment like gimbals, lighting, and even a freaking drone. That was all completely new territory for me. And so Danny looked at some photos that I had previously taken and saw how excited I was about the whole thing and said, hey, how about we work together? Excuse me? Yeah, I had no idea that Danny was actively earning money already through this craft. I mean, he was getting paid to be a creative. To me, that was beyond anything imaginable. I mean, I had heard about this concept of getting paid to do this, but I actually met someone who actually does get paid for this and he wants to work with me. And so Danny had 2 real estate clients and he was in charge of photographing and making photos and videos of homes. And then later editing those photos and putting them into Photoshop to make graphics. And of course, editing the videos as well. And he was also in charge of posting these videos, photos, and graphics on social media and then running them as ads so that the right people could see them and then the home would sell. And so Danny took me under his wing. I was going out to these homes every single day with him and I would help him take photos and make these videos. And so naturally, I learned so much about using different lenses. I learned about lighting. I learned about drone photography and video. And once again, I felt like a freaking kid. I was exploring this brand new territory for me. Once again, it was a new horizon of creation, a brand new horizon of art. And now the funny part was that Danny at the time couldn't afford to pay me that much. He had rent, he had a wife, and he had a kid to take care of. So I was getting like $200 a month, if that. But I was completely fine with it. I mean, to me, I was just so happy and I was actually having fun. And so for me, $200 a month was more than enough to take my girlfriend out at the time on a date a couple times a month, pump some gas, and maybe keep paying for my photography equipment. That was fine with me. I was literally living the life. And so I helped Danny with the production of these 2 clients for about a year or so. And I actually met these clients on several locations. I mean, I learned the ins and outs of what needed to be done and what was expected of us. And so then fast forward a little bit, Danny stopped working with one of his 2 real estate clients and things got tough for him. He now only had 1 client, and at the same time, I think like he felt responsible for me, so he didn't want to quite let me go. And so one event led to the other in Danny's life, and they all had to move up north, him and his family. And well, who do you think started handling all of that production down here for that 1 client that was left? That's right, yours truly. After all, Danny was no longer in town and he couldn't do the work himself. Danny told me that he was gonna leave me with this 1 client so I could do the exact same work that he used to do for him, but now completely alone. And so all of a sudden, my income literally 10x'd from $200 to $2,000 a month. To me, that was a world of money. Like, are you kidding me? And granted, I was super nervous about it. I was freaking out. I had all of this self-doubt that I wasn't going to be able to make it. I wasn't going to be able to pull it off. And I was afraid to not be able to get the results that Danny would get. My mind was literally filled with fear, but excitement at the same time. But Danny assured me that I was more than capable of doing this. After all, I had already learned the fundamentals of what we did, but also I was able to reproduce virtually everything, as I was the one in charge of editing the photos, the videos, the graphics, and sometimes even posting and running ads. I learned how to do all of that within the time that we shared together. And so that is how I landed my very first client. And so as the weeks went by and the months went by, I started to get creative with different things. I mean, it was around the same time that I switched majors in college to graphic design, and I was learning lots of different things like making logos, spraying fonts, coming up with color palettes, how to make posters, how to design websites, and slowly but surely, I found my very next big creative passion: visual identities. And now what is that? This is how businesses look like and how they present themselves to the world. Let me give you a very clear example. We all know McDonald's. We know the golden arches and the red backgrounds. We know how their Happy Meals look like. We know the packaging of their fries. We know their billboards, etc. Now, in every billboard, in every poster, and in every ad, you see and hear the same types of assets. I mean the same yellow arches on the same backgrounds. I mean the same slogan. And ever since we have TV and audio, the same ba-da-ba-ba-ba. That is all part of the big umbrella that is a visual identity, or what some other people call brand identity. But that is slightly different because the term branding refers more to your reputation than just the visuals. But I digress. I literally fell in love with this concept, so much so that I would craft visual identities from scratch, literally just for fun, on my free time. And I would design these for hours on end. To me, it was so exciting. I wanted to learn why and how some visual identities could look so futuristic because of the play on fonts and colors and other digital elements, and some others could look so handmade and yet very luxurious. I was practicing how to make these things every day. And I was that guy in college who went above and beyond in every single project, developing way more than what the teacher asked for. More versions of something, more in depth, more everything. But it was so fun to me. I mean, the way that I saw it, I was developing skills for a whole company or even a corporation to present themselves to the world. I was developing a creative skill set, but also the ability to provide a business with a very powerful asset, which is how they present themselves to their audience. I was completely in love with this concept, and because of that, once again, a new horizon appeared before me. I was a kid having fun. I was a kid putting in countless hours into his craft, but it never actually felt like work. It never even crossed my mind that this was tedious. I was happy to spend my days designing and crafting, or essentially working. And in little time, I figured out a way to apply all of this to my one real estate client. I redesigned his brand, his colors, his fonts, and suddenly he had a sort of identity. And at the time, not very many people in his niche had one, so he stood out from the crowd. Suddenly his printed assets were cohesive with his graphics and videos online. There was a sort of identifiable way in which he would present himself to the world through his visual identity that I had made for him. And with the right consistency online, people could come to recognize it automatically, and that was his brand. Just how McDonald's can put up a billboard and without them saying the name of the company, you know that it is them. And of course, he freaking loved that. And naturally, other people started noticing. Among them, there were business owners who were looking for these kinds of services as well. And they were asking, hey, who is this kid that's doing this kind of work for you? And so this one real estate client opened the doors for me to my second client. And now this kept on snowballing and happening over and over again. And with every new client that I acquired, I had more skill sets under my belt, more skill sets that I could leverage with my portfolio and prove that I could do what this new client or potential lead needed or wanted. But the fundamental lesson to be learned here is the following. Nothing that I ever pursued ever truly felt like any real work. I was lucky enough to pursue what I wanted, and then the world agreed that it had value. Sure, I'd put in hours and hours of research, editing, and actually getting better at my own game, and to this day, I still do. And there were good days, and there were bad days, and there were days that I didn't want to do anything. And to this day, those days still come every now and then. But I was always just a kid having fun, chasing that new horizon of creation. A kid learning new methods to create and searching for ways that his work can have a bigger impact and be more valuable to more people and more businesses. A kid that simply looks for the next skill to stack upon his existing ones. Whether that's a creative one like designing a logo, designing a landing page, or even a website, or a more technical one like writing an ad or selling a product through copywriting or nurturing leads in different ways online. So regardless of where you are in life, whether you are proud of yourself or not, whether you're in high school, in college, or you're an adult with a 9-to-5, this is your reminder to always make time to pursue what feels right to you, to pursue that indescribable feeling that you get when something feels like a new horizon, to allow yourself to be a kid and go explore that new skill, to allow yourself to suck at it until you become a master at it and enjoy that process of becoming who you're meant to become. Make time for it. Chase it, reach it, and get better at it because you never know what it can turn into. And just like me, it might just change your life. Hey, my name is Max Trejo, and this was my story of how I ended up running a $10,000 to $15,000 a month business as a one-person agency. And if you want to follow along and watch more videos about personal growth, mindset, and success, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also watch that video next, and I'll catch you over there.